recorded.
Hello everyone. Good afternoon to all. I am Jithin Chandrababu Tumbekalam, Assistant Professor of Civil Engineering, Francis Xavier Engineering College, Tirunelveli. On behalf of Francis Xavier Engineering College, I would like to extend a very warm welcome to everyone of you who is listening this session. I thank you all for taking out of your schedule and joining us with this event. People who feels good about themselves do great work and create great things. One such person is with I am so glad in introducing our honorable speaker, Mr. Harish Omnath. He is a knowledgeable person and become a most distinguished and successful person in the field of remote sensing. He is presently working as Assistant Manager, Data Processing, Arrow Unmanned System, Bangalore. He completed his BE in Geoinformatics from Anna University Regional Campus Tirunelveli in the year 2017. And his area of interest are GIS and WebGIS, then spatial data analysis, then location-based technology and IoT, and remote sensing and image processing. I welcome Mr. Harish Omnath sir for this session on remote sensing data products and computer application. I hand over this session to him. Out to you, sir. Thank you. Harish sir.
Yeah, very good afternoon. So thank you for the introduction, sir. So let me share my screen first. So a warm welcome to all and very good afternoon. So today we are going to discuss about remote sensing data products and computer vision application on this session. So why I choose the computer vision application and remote sensing data products? So like if we see past 3 years, maybe from 2015 to 2020, we can take a period of 5 years. So we can see a bloom of technology evolution. So comparing to previous decade, this decade is highly evolutionary in. So the technologies like data science, big data analytics, computer vision. So all these technologies get too much blooming. So these technologies are not recent to the industry. They were from the beginning, but due to computational gap. So computational gap. So hardware gap. So it was not implemented from 1960s, but due to this hardware gap has been filled recent years. So we can see the bloom in the technology. So data science, computer vision technology, machine learning, deep learning, reinforcement learning. So there are multiple technologies which are booming and which will be transform our industry, not only JS industry, in towards banking sector, insurance. So we can take like, even smart cities, IoTs. So it will transform everything within a span of maybe 5 to 10 years. Like average change will be there. If we go beyond, like mostly like how we live with smartphones, we will be living with the same these technologies. So before starting session, let me introduce myself. So my name is Harish Omnath. So I have completed my bachelor's of geoinformatics in Anna University. So currently I'm working in a company based on Bangalore. My company is Arrow Unmanned System. We specifically work with drone data sets. So we used to handle large scale drone data sets, large scale drone processing, large scale drone analytics. So in my day-to-day work, so I used to handle like large scale data sets like raster data sets, vector data sets on my day-to-day work. So before giving a session, I just want to make some small notes. So the things which are displayed in my screen, in my presentation, it's not any proprietary content. So it's not a part of my research. It's just a part of my Google search. So all the contents are from Google search. So thanks for Google first. So before starting, so contents, the things what we are going to discuss today is, so how to choose a right data product. So before starting a remote sensing product or a GIS project or a photogrammetry project, so first the data is a very crucial thing. So we have a if you are, for example, so consider I want to do a corridor mapping, so a map for a road, so I want to extend my road. So in those cases, so my things are limited, like I should make a large scale map, so it should display my road features, the roads, my roads, the to the left of the roads, what are the obstacles, to the right of the roads, what are the obstacles. So this it will be my focus. So here I need a high spatial resolution data to map accurately so that I can extend my road. But if I'm planning, so I'm a decision maker, consider I'm a decision maker, and I'm planning to map my villages. So I want to map my entire state. So consider I'm in Karnataka, so I want to map my entire state. So I want to monitor my drought. So from 2000 to 2020. So how much my drought pattern varies. So in this things, so I need a large scale, small scale actually. This is a small scale. So I need a large sets of data. So in this situation, I will go with the satellite data because more spectral information is available. Then large area of coverage is large. So if I want to map these things, I don't have a historical data from a drone or an aeroplane, but I have a historical data from a satellite. So in this case, I want to go with the satellite. So this depends. So apart from this, so we will have a thing. What are the different data products in remote sensing? So few agencies providing the drone data and satellite data, then sensors which we are using in aerial platforms and terrestrial platforms. Then we will directly jump. We can have a small data too, so I can showcase you a few data sets on like maybe one satellite imagery and few of the drone data sets and maybe one data. Then computer vision. So after that, we will directly jump into computer vision. So computer vision, we will speak about how remote sensing, computer vision are correlated each other, how statistics is correlated with remote sensing, photogrammetry. Then same. So application of computer vision, and we will go through in a sector. Then we will directly go for a platform tool, which various computer vision platforms which has been developed in the recent years, and some GIS tools. Maybe a starter can tie with these tools to get hands-on. So again, same to coming to the point. So also the slides. So the topic which we are going to discuss today, it's not only limited to these slides. So anybody has any questions apart from these slides? Like mostly we try to deviate not from data products and computer applications, but whatever doubts on GIS or remote sensing, so we can have it, no issue. And let's make session a little bit interactive, so no issue. So you can pitch me in. Also, whenever you have doubts. Okay. So how to choose the right products? So when we speak about data products, how we collect the data? So first, so how like in remote sensing, how we see the earth? So in remote sensing, so we have various sensors in various levels. So we have a sensor on the ground. We have a sensor on and they are at about 100 meters. We have a sensor about 1,500 meters. So we have a various types of sensors which are monitoring in our day-to-day life. So maybe camera. So the basic example sensor which is in as our part of life is our camera. So we take pictures when we go out, profile picture, this, that. So this is a basic, very closely attached with us in our day-to-day life. Similarly, so we use three kinds of platforms. So at various heights. So drones, airplanes, satellites. So these satellites are constantly fixed at a height of 1,500 kilometers, maybe in a geosynchronous orbits. So they were standard and we won't disturb. So it is continuously monitoring us. So it helps in communication, remote sensing, say earth observation, climatology, everything. So if we come below that, airplanes. So airplanes where when it's a sort of photogrammetry, when we speak about when we just move little bit. So remote sensing and photogrammetry, there is no difference. So remote sensing, the analytics and spectral information which will be more. So photogrammetry is the same thing as remote sensing. So the processing, these things, everything will be same. But only in photogrammetry, we'll make measurements. So photogrammetry, we can say two types. One is interpretive photogrammetry and another one is analytic photogrammetry. So in this analytic photogrammetry will be mostly remote sensing. So we get a data from satellite or we get a data from aeroplane. So extract the information. So it's not about only measurements. Extract the meaningful information which we can update, which we can take from it. So maybe crop analysis or hydrology analysis or map your air pollution in your area. So this can be done. So aeroplanes. So aeroplanes. So this for this aeroplanes. So it's a planned mission. Aeroplane won't be like it won't be constantly monitored. It's a planned mission which will be done by a photogrammetrist and a field operation guys. So which will be planned and executed. So this so around height of maybe 400 to 500 minimum, maximum to 700 meters it will go. So this airplane photogrammetry. So we used to collect the strip photos of our ground. Then using photogrammetry technology, mathematical models, software. So the software which has been created from this mathematical model. So we'll process these data sets and do whether I want to do topographic mapping. So again, it's here application differs. Then third, drone. So the drone is also a recent bloom which we can see in the market. So like in the past 10 years, so maybe by 2010, it's a very transformation technology. So this drone replaces the cost of handling the project using airplane is differs from the cost of handling the project using drone. So when you consider if you are surveying 1 square kilometer, for that we can't rent an airplane and nobody will have a facility. But the cost of 1 square kilometer will be very cheap in drone in the sector of drone. So then we can discuss about what sensor to be chosen for our projects. So sensor. So we will discuss in the next slide actually. So then based on the level of the data processing. So how the data products is classified according to its level of the processing and based upon the scale of the projects. So first thing when we decide our project, so what is my theme of my project? So either I want to do a large scale mapping. So like whether I want to map my street or either I want to map my city or either I want to map my country. It differs. First case. The second thing. So for what, like either I'm going to do only topographic mapping or I'm going to do I'm going to extract other than the topographic mapping. I'm going to classify my regions. I'm going to classify my wetlands, drylands. I'm going to classify my drought regions. I'm going to predict my yield. So in those cases, definitely data plays a big role. Satellite plays a big role. So same as we discussed in the previous slide. So satellite area is very coverage, large area coverage. It covers a large area. So there are many satellites like which might have discussed. You have discussed in a previous session. So Landsat, Cartosat, Resourcesat, Envisat. So this were observation satellite which have a specific mission timing and which continuously operates and monitors. Then aeroplane same. So maybe so in ground we have a different types of sensors like terrestrial scanners. So which so this scanner is made up of a sensor called LiDAR. So it uses a light detection technology to scan our environment. So then let's move to next one. So sensor. So here in sensor, I just want to classify into two types. So one is active sensor, next is passive sensor. So what is active sensor? So if I want to speak about an active sensor, so say again, I'm coming to same example phone. So maybe I have a phone, I have a camera. So in morning, I can snap good pictures in my phone because I have a good lighting. I have a lighting is very good, brightness is good, so I can click clear pictures with lesser phone. But on the night, either I should use a source from a third party. Either I should hold a light, or either I should use my tube lights, or either you should use my flash. So sorry. So it differs. So in this case, so the active sensor is a sensor which uses some external source lighting. So passive sensor, it uses its own source. So it doesn't require any additional energy to perform its operation. So in that case, we can classify as a LiDAR and SAR. So passive sensor, good example is your GPS. So if you have a location, you need to know your location. You have a mobile, so you can you can switch on your location where I am, so where I need to go. So you can do this in any time. You don't need to light for this. So that's it. So second, the next is level of processing. So whatever data satellite is scanning, it will be a raw signal. So that is called as level 0. So this level 0 products, it will be in all space organizations, but they like in few organizations they won't share. Few organizations like maybe we can get. So this level 0 products mostly we won't be using, and it's depending upon. So if we got the level 0 product also, the processing which we need to carry is more. So they have automated algorithms to perform operations, so to perform basic corrections on the level 0 products. So that is called a level 0. So it's a raw signals which is received from by the satellite, nothing else. Then level 1. So when we go to level 0 to level 1, level 1 is a processed product. So it's not a completely processed product. So these levels, like, we don't need to maintain the same. It differs upon the different organization. Maybe this nomenclature will differ. So level 1 product. So once I got the sequence, so I will do two types of corrections. So whatever signal I got from the satellite, I will do two types of corrections. So one is radiometric correction, another one is geometric corrections. So these signals hits our ear and when going back to the sensor. So when it go back, so when it going back to the sensor, it faces like different kinds of issue while traveling in the path. So maybe atmosphere, sometime due to sun or due to the elevation of my terrain. So it may face various reflectance problems. So this correction will be corrected by these things will be corrected using radiometric correction. Second is geometric corrections. So in these geometric corrections, so mostly we will be correct. So there is two types of distortions. One is systematic distortions. Another one is random distortions. So this random distortions, it will be a relief displacement. So which we will talk maybe in few of the slides. Systematic distortions is mainly like due to the scan problem. So maybe my scan is scanning from east to west. My image has skewed little bit towards my west. So in those cases, those adjustments, so to match, so to satisfy those corrections, to make this adjustment and fit into our base. So when we geometric correction is done, so image matching will be done. Image matching, image to map matching. So these transformations will be done. So this skewness towards my right end or skewness towards my left end, so or it is kind of bulged in the center. So these corrections will be satisfied in geometric correction. So this is the basic correction, level 1 product, so radiometric and geometric correction. So which we will be getting level 1 product, like it's available in USGS, even Copernicus we can get. Then level 2A. So in level 2A is a georeferenced product. So what does georeferencing means? So I have an image. So when I have an image, we have a real world coordinates. Appending this real world coordinates to my image is generally called as georeferencing. So basically, I have an image. I have 4 corners. So X. So image is always compressed up of rows and columns, but I don't know its location. So for that, so whenever I have so usually like our Earth is a globe. So again, we are projecting the Earth into a flat surface. So for projecting, so our images, everything is a flat. So we should add our projection. So we should add our coordinate system. So we should bring our image, which is from image coordinate system to map coordinate system. So adding X, Y information to my image, so that when I have a Google map, so when I have an image, I load it on a Google map or I load it on a OSM. So my position should match. So this georeferenced product, it won't be accurate. So it may deviate from 100 meter, minimum 100 meter to maximum. Maximum depends. Then level 2 products is a georeferenced product with the high positional accuracy. So when we speak about the satellite imagery, so if I speaking when I'm saying about 10 meter satellite imagery, so 10 meter resolution, my satellite imagery resolution is 10 meter. So definitely the positional information will have also if I speaking about my positional accuracy, my spatial resolution and positional accuracy will be nearly same. So if I have 10 meter satellite imagery, I will be having a positional accuracy of 10 meter. So that product which we are getting, so which our satellite imagery which has been captured in 10 meter resolution will be optimized using ground control points. So the ground control points are the points which are established, predefined, pre-established on the ground. So this will have a fixed XY which will be observed through a DGPS receiver or a GPS receiver, and our product will be rectified and corrected using this GCPs to bring it to a high level accuracy. So the third corrections are the relief displacement, large area mosaics. So in level 3, so when we speak about relief displacement, so we have a mountain, suddenly we have a terrain. So I have a mountain, I have a flat terrain. So in this, my mountain and my flat terrain won't match. So my maybe I have a if I'm promising you the accuracy of 3 centimeter in my flat terrain, when if I didn't use relief displacement, my accuracy of 3 centimeter won't match on my mountain terrain. So for this, we have a certain predefined photogrammetric equations, so which will correct. So we will create a DEM product first. So this, so sorry to include. I forgot to include the DEM product. So level 3, so after this corrections, positional accuracy has been derived. So we'll be deriving a DEM product. So DEM is nothing but a digital elevation model. We call it as digital elevation model. So we represent our terrain elevation in a format in a raster format. So if each pixels hold the elevation of my terrain, xy of my terrain. So so there are various types of digital elevation model. Like in general terminology, we call it as DEM and DTM. So DEM is called as digital elevation model. Instead that if I subscript again, DTM is called as my digital terrain model. So which usually represent only my bare earth. So bare earth. So there won't be any man-made feature. There won't be any tree. If there is a mountain, there will be only mountain. Remaining trees will be removed. So then I can say my canopy height model, so which gives me all height of my plants. Then I can say building height models, which will give which is a raster model which has only building heights, nothing else, no information other than that. The digital surface model is a cumulative of all these products. So it will have whatever in surface, whatever my sensor is capturing. So it will include all this. So maybe it can be a building or it can be a tree, anything. It will capture everything. So with the help of my with the help of my DEM, this release displacement will be adjusted on my final product, which I am getting, which mosaic, which will be equally accurate in positions in all kinds of terrain. So this relief displacement correction will be happening in, like, if we have previously seen about SRTM, is a DEM product which is available in open source also. So we can download from Google also. So which is readily available. So this relief displacement will be happen in all these terrains. Then large area mosaic project. So when we when we speak about larger areas, so I need to map my India. So whatever tiles we are purchasing from the data provider agency, it won't be a whole tile. So I will give you 100 square kilometer data in a single tile. So it will be a very large data sets. The formats which are raw uncompressed formats are very large data sets, and it's very much painful to handle with the system capability. So we will be mosaicing our products into very small tiles, which we can handle or which we can batch process easily with less efforts, comparing to having a large tile and operating on it. So computationally, it's a very good thing. So these mosaics will be also adjusted. So building distortions, or if there is if the road is passing in one mosaic and other mosaic, it's deviating from 5 to 10 centimeters. So these things, everything will be adjusted, and final corrected data will be mosaiced into tiles, into a equal square tiles. Then apart from that, so we have various levels of products, derived products. So we can speak about NDVI. We can speak about various vegetation index. We have total atmospheric reflectance products, blah blah blah. So we have more kinds. We can derive from our end also more kinds of product, and we can readily purchase from data provider agencies. So it's readily available in market. If we want to derive for our use case, it depends. If we are going to purchase, it differs. So then let's speak about a scale. So when we starting a mapping project, particularly a mapping project, scale is a very very important factor to consider. So here large scale, small scale. So here the difference is, when we speak about large scale, small area. When we speak about small scale, large area. So that is the difference. So please don't confuse. So large scale is a smaller area coverage. So large scale cover details with high precision of a smaller area. Small scale covers larger area with a less geography, like with the larger geography will be more, but the details, level of details will be less. So if I am mapping my street, for example, it's the same example. If I'm mapping my street, maybe using a drone camera or using some laser scanner, so I can update, so I can capture each and every feature of my street. Maybe I can capture my tree, I can capture my electric poles, I can capture my uh, roads exactly, road corners exactly, I can capture each and every culvert on my street, I can capture my street boards too with name. So, but this level of description or level of detail, it won't be there in small scale map. So, small scale covers a large geography. It's very good thing when you operate on a large scale. So, when you want to operate on a larger area. So, 1 second. So, is it fine, sir? No? Are you able to see my screen? So, can you able to see my screen? Okay, sorry for the interruption. So then, so this is a so these were the main criteria when we decide to proceed with the project. So scale first we should depending upon the scale, my resolution varies. So when I want to go with my larger scale, I don't need to bother about my resolution. But if I want to uh, capture minute my my terrain in a minute in a very small sorry in a very large scale, I my resolution it should be less than 10 centimeters or 5 centimeters to map that much precisely. So next let's jump to data formats. So all so when we generally speak about data products, the details which are captured by satellites will be generally in raster formats. So whatever signals which will be, it will be converted to raster formats. So the signals will be processed and converted to raster formats. So when we speak about raster format, so GeoTIFF is one such. So there are various types of formats, raster formats in JS, but I have limited only 6 formats. I have took only 6 formats here, but there are various products. Sorry, various formats available. So GeoTIFF is one such format. So which it's an uncompressed format, uh, which we use to represent the raster data. So the compression level is very low, so it uses LCWW compressions. So we have a JPEG compressions too. So here we using GeoTIFF. So this GeoTIFF will be a geo referenced. So has a capability to hold our metadata, like what is of my projection. It has a capability to hold my metadata. It has a capability to hold my elevation data. So generally we use 32-bit GeoDiff formats. Then NetCDF. So NetCDF, HDF, if I speak, so these both formats were when we operate on a multi-layer elastic data. So consider I have a 10 climate data for a continuous 10 months. So it will be very much, it's very difficult. It's not very difficult, but it's very much painful to operate on each data on CSV. So when we convert this to a raster format, so we generally use NetCDF. So NetCDF, CDF is a, HDF is a hierarchical data format, and NetCDF, CDF, I think it's a common distribution form. So NetCDF and HDF are the major format which are most widely used to, maybe we can get climatic data in these formats. So NetCDF and HDF is most widely used multi-layer raster formats. Then COG. So COG is a recent format which we are using in industries. So COG, we can, if we expand COG is cloud optimized GeoDiffs. So after this evolution of cloud computing technologies, so we have Amazon Cloud, we have GCP, we have Azure. So after this evolution of this, COG was it's a same GeoDiff we will be representing in cloud. So the data weight of this data will be very less in COG compared to GeoDiff. So the handling of the cloud database and cloud APIs will become very easier. So next is DTED and DEM. So as discussed, these both were the formats which we use to represent the DEM. So these were the standard formats. When we get the DEM, we can, when we purchase a DEM, we will get these standard formats from the industries. Then, so here also, if we speak about data also, so here also in DTED also we have level 0, level 1, level 2, so it varies. So after this raster, I have got a raster. So either I'm going to do a raster operations or raster analysis, or I'm going to do a vector analysis. So if we speak about sensors, airborne sensors, so we have a certain formats which we will be majorly using in airborne sensor and terrain sensor is LAS. So LAS is a widely used format. It's a vector format. So this format used to represent our point cloud. So I will explain what is point cloud in the later session. So in the next slide. Then shape. Shape is also a common format which is used in industry. It's a open source format created by ESRA, famous. They have everything in JS. So the format, open source format, which has created by ESRA is shape format. Then KML and KMZ are the web formats. So these formats we can plot out lines, points, polygon in web browsers. So in engines, so Google Earth, I can plot in Google Maps. Google Maps I have. So these are operated like it's we can operate in our phone also. We have certain apps which handles KML, so this makes easier. Then geo package is one more format. So this is so in if we speak about some proprietary format which I didn't include the slide, so I can say GDB. So GDB geo database. So it has a different layers, different levels, which saves the so if I have a line, it will I can create a future class, line future class. If I want a point, I can create a class, point class. So if I want to group all my points in a single data set, so I can group. So a kind of geo package is a kind of the same format. It can also handle very large data sets, very large vector files. Then PLY. PLY is the same as a LAS. It used to, we can use this format to represent our point data sets. Either it can be XYZ or it can be LAS, which we are getting from drone or radar sensors. So then DXF and DWG is a widely discussed, which is also a widely used format in GIS industries. So DXF and DWG. So whenever we prepare a map, so most of the industries So for operating with the GIS data, so we need a certain kinds of software. So it may be proprietary or open source. We need a certain kind of software. So for this interoperability, so maybe if I'm working with a civil engineer, I can't ask him to install QGIS and open with my data. So he's very popular with CAD. So so most civil oriented. So JS is also correlated with very highly with civil. So when we work with the civil, if we do a mapping, so that this DWG format we can't eliminate. So whatever plans which we are making, or if you are monitoring the profile of my terrain, so everything will be represented using DXF or DWG. It's a standard format which is following in industries also. So sorry, I forgot to say one thing. So before talk, already we discussed about vector formats, but there are vector data models. So vector data models, so how we represent image as terrain, so we can represent in the same manner. So we use points, lines, and areas. So all these were the features which we used to represent our terrain. So yes,
Hello.
sir.
Your slide is not coming to the entire screen. The bottom part on the right side, that is not visible.
1 second, sir.
Yes.
1 second. Uh, 1 second. So can you see now, sir? Is it visible?
No, it's not. Yes, now it's visible. Yes, yes,
Now it's visible. That's fine, sir.
yes.
So okay. So as discussed, so we are using point, line features, area features to represent our terrain. So these were generally called as vectors. So these vectors will be also in a coordinate system. So it may be a, so we generally follows UTM coordinate system. So we have various, but not to deviate much. So this will be also in a coordinate system. Mm. So for the files format which which we are using to store and process these models were the above mentioned format, shape, class, geo package. So this will be the format which we'll be using widely. So apart from this, so whenever we need to perform a topological operations, so our topological operations will perform better. So if you need to do a topographic mapping, so I can suggest like it's better in vector model than in a raster model. So then next we will, so let's discuss about few data products. I'm not going in depth of the data product, so in depth of the data. So I don't want to discuss, it's not like Landsat and we said I'm not going to discuss multiple products. I'm just making it short. So I can discuss Landsat, then we can discuss about Cartosat, then we can discuss about Sentinel, then we can discuss about what other data products which I am getting in from a satellites. Okay, so first we'll start with Landsat. So Landsat mission, we have around I think 9 missions. So the recent 9 is a thermal infrared. So 8, 9. Sorry. So Landsat 1 to 5 is a mission called as multispectral scanner. So then we have a 4 to 5 thematic mapper. Then ETM plus it's a Landsat 7, and OLI and TIRS is a Landsat 8 and 9 mission. So when we speak about Landsat application, so it's almost applied in like from air pollution monitoring to come find the PM to, I want to estimate my PM. It's a particular matter. So I want to estimate my how what my air is spoiled. Like how can I estimate my air pollution? So I can use Landsat data. So then to map my crop prediction, so to predict my crop yield or to predict my crop stress, or whether I need to find my drought index. So it applies in all industries. So I have mentioned only 2, but it applicable in all of the use cases. It applicable in hydrology, it applicable in mining. It has a wide range of application, but I have got charted. So I have narrowed it to only 2 things. One is agriculture and another one is land use mapping. So land use mapping, so it's land cover map is also a satellite, sorry, it's also a data product which is supplying, which is given by all satellite provider agencies. So, but we can get as a product also. We can do from our end also. So it differs upon our application. So the main two which I want to discuss is one is agriculture and another one is land use. So whether I want to map which is my waste area, or whether is there a dumping which has been illegal dumping or kind of waste dumping has been occurred, which has been monitored which has been spoiled my environment in the recent years. So I can use Landsat data to predict using temporal data. So when we speak about temporal, so temporal is different time at a different time period. So satellite used to collect at different timelines. So I may have a data for 2010. I'm having data for 2020. So all this data layers, I have a temporal period. So I can collect and I can analysis how my environment changes or how my landform changed. So everything can be done easily with this satellite data. So next, so Landsat is operated by NASA. So then Cartosat is an Indian satellite which is launched by ISRO. So Cartosat is a high resolution. So when we discuss about Landsat resolution, so I think Landsat is a 10-meter resolution data, but Cartosat we have a 1-meter resolution data. In Cartosat 2, we have we can produce DEM of 1 meter. So Cartosat 2 is a we have a pan imagery. So on Cartosat is also giving Cartosat is also giving DEM products. We have a DEM, so we can purchase DEM directly, or we can get the stereo image and we can generate DEM too. So Cartosat 3 is a recent mission which is launched about 2018 to 2018. So it also provides 0.25 meter, so which is a 25 centimeter resolution of pan imagery and around 1 meter of multispectral imagery. So red, blue, green, and NIR bands. Then also apart from this, it's providing 12 meter of hyperspectral. I think still data is not available in market for Cartosat 3. Then road. So when we speak about applications of Cartosat, so for Cartosat, so again, if I want to do a mapping on extracting all my river features in my country, so I can use Cartosat DEM products, so which are high resolution DEM in satellite in regards of satellite data. So I can use that. Then so NASA Power. So it's a different product which we are getting from the satellite. So it's a project which is created by NASA. So they provide data sets for renewable energy uses. So they provide, so power is called prediction of worldwide energy resources. So they provide us the data of solar installation. So how much my day, so how much per day, how much my building or my specific object in the earth is absorbing how much solar power. So either my building is absorbing or my next building is absorbing. So they are giving this type of data. So they are giving rainfall data. So they are giving all kinds of temperature data which is available. And a good team is working on it. So they have various papers too, good papers. Then Sentinel-4. So in Sentinel-4 we have around 5 missions. So Sentinel-1, I think we have for land and ocean monitoring, and we have SAR sensor 2. Then Sentinel-2 is for land monitoring and vegetation monitoring. Then we have Sentinel-3 marine observation. Then Sentinel-4 is especially for air quality monitoring and completely for atmospheric monitoring dedicated. It has various applications too, but the main objective of the mission was to atmospheric air quality monitoring. Then Sentinel-5 is also having air quality monitoring, and 5P6 both the mission. So the for 5P5 6 have both air quality monitoring, then and oceanographics and other climatic studies. So then on one of the more interesting product is EGM. So EGM we call as Earth Gravitational Model. So this EGM product is created. So this, what does this EGM product actually say? So this, so before, okay. So I can say this EGM product has been derived from mathematical models plus this data which is observed from 2 missions of the satellite. So one is GOES, Gravity Field Steady State Ocean Circulation Explorer, and GRACE, Gravity Record and Climate Experiment. So these were the 2 sensors, so which we have, and the sensor and the data is collected and mathematical models and parameters has been performed and we are getting. So this EGM height will give us the geoid height. So what is geoid height? When I want to speak specifically about my geoid height, so I have a terrain. So basically in GIS or in remote sensing, so we have a model of Earth as a ellipsoid. So we used to consider our model of Earth as a ellipsoid. So when I consider my model as a ellipsoid, so there is my undulation. So my terrain is not flat, or my terrain is not curved or anything. So I have undulation. So the difference between my terrain and to this ellipsoidal model is what this EGM signifies. So is what my geoid height. So this geoid height will be calculated in accounting of gravity. So we will account gravities while calculating this geoid. So this is derived from GOES and GRACE satellites. So altimeters are there, and we use Doppler effects. So there are also previous data sets also and recent data sets which we will be speaking about, which where there was Doppler satellites, then very short very short baseline interferometry was there. So these techniques has been used to generate high accurate EGMs. So in EGM also we have various models. So here I have mentioned only EGM 96. So we have a EGM 84 on EGM 2008. So EGM 2008 we have a 1 minute model. So in each versions of EGM we have passed 1 minute, 5 minute, 10 minutes. So each minute has defined this certain accuracy. So if it is my 1 minute, I can 10 meter accuracy. The 2 minutes it defines my 20 meter accuracy. So it will add upon depending upon my minutes. So that is my EGM product, which is usually widely in mapping when maintaining and increasing our mapping accuracy. So it's one of the important product. So it's also available as a formats raster images, or if you want to, if it's also available as a numeric format in Excel or CDF, HDF, so whatever. If you want to perform some polynomial equations or something, depending upon our research cases, that can be also done. It is also available as a EXE, where you can use this as your API for your software. Then GPS products. So when we speak about satellites, definitely it's we can include GPS, commercial satellites like broadcasting, televisions, everything will come up. But when we speak about Earth observation satellites, so all our Landsats, NVSat, OceanSat, everything plays a major role. So from that we derive again GPS. So this GPS is a passive sensor, so which is also useful in market, not only in market, in our day-to-day life too, which is also useful to provide high positional accuracies. So when we need to map in a large scale, so definitely we need a positional accuracy there. So that is constantly monitoring using which is can make up constantly using GPS. So it's not only GPS we can say. So we have in India we have IRNS, so which is commonly called as NAVIC. Then GLONASS is there for Russia. GLONASS is there. Then Baidu is there. So like there are different satellite products is there. So GPS is a constellation of 24 satellites which is constantly orbiting our Earth. So it was first it was created for NASA military purpose. Then it has been for all civilian purpose. So even though there is a restriction, there is a restriction still between civilian users and defense users. So the level of bands which we are getting there is a certain level of restriction which we are getting. So this GPS, so it's also operate 24 hours a day. It doesn't require any additional energy or any artificial source of energy to operate. So to extract high-level positional accuracy, we perform DGPS techniques such as PPK, RTK on the ground. So we will be having a satellite and we will be having a receiver too. So once we operate our receiver, so there are different functionalities which can be there is a different techniques DGPS. So this will differentiate our errors and produce high level of X, Y, and Z accuracy. So traditional handheld GPS may produce up to 2 meter, even 10 meter, up to 10 meter in relative accuracy and absolute accuracy too. But our DGPS techniques, it can produces 10 centimeter accuracy. So next product is DEM product. So this is also a derived product. So start. It's a derived product. So this is created either using stereo vision techniques or through manual classification techniques. So once we got the data, so everything will be so if we need a DSM directly, so it will be using stereo vision. This photogrammetric operations and photogrammetric algorithms will be run over this software, positionally corrected. Then I don't want to include a lot of jargon, so I'm just then we have concept called arrow triangulation. So it's just like how our eyes creating a 3D environment. So how it can stitch certain on the spontaneous on the spot, it can stitch the image of a building. I can see the image. It's the same concept which is there, which has been implemented in photogrammetry to get a 3D terrain. So terms also there is SRTM product which is readily available in market. So Airbus and Digital Globe are like commercial players which they really provide good high accuracy them in case of satellite. So then similarly a mission called Mars Orbiter Laser Altimeter MOLA. So it has been launched by NASA. Even we have a Mars mission in India. So this provides also the surface for Mars. Then when we speak about mission, so it's not limited to only Earth. We have a Saturn mission, we have a Venus mission, we have a Jupiter mission. So Saturn we are operating a mission called Cassini, which is also operated by NASA. Then I think for Jupiter we are operating a mission called Titan. So that is also operating my data. So there are data available. So if we are interested in exploring some other planets, we have a lot of satellites which are monitoring not only Earth, which are monitoring all the planets around us. So then derived products. So derived products were the products which is usually derived from a raster data. So as we discussed vector maps, so depending upon the use case, vector or land cover maps or 3D models. So 3D models is also like very good derived product where we have a LOD and we can when we need to consider, I need to make some flood modeling kind of thing, or I need to, so we can help a decision maker to plan his, maybe in urban planning, we can help a decision maker to plan the city like very accurately. Then spectral indices is also one of the good, it's a very valuable product from remote sensing. So spectral indices is nothing but, so we have a multi layers of data. So if I speak about multispectral data, I have red band, I have a green band, I have blue band, NIR, yes, WIR, 1, 2, thermal. So we have a lot of bands in hyperspectral too. So these band combinations. So maybe I can use my red band and NIR band to calculate my vegetation, normalized different vegetation index. So which gives me how my plant health is. So like so I have a water index, we have a building index. So this helps in classification, land use land classification too. Then so some of the data provided agencies which are there. So same here, USGS, we know. Then NASA's Earth data, BO1, NRC, ESA. So they are like data provider agencies. They provide both open source data and paid data sets. Then if we speak about commercial players, so Moxa Technology is one, then Airbus. So then Digital Globe and Moxa Technology, so they both separate and they both collaborators. Then Satellite Imaging Corp is also providing satellite data. So they planets. So these they Airbus and Digital Globes like providing really high resolution data sets, like maybe 30 centimeter resolution. We have a data set 30 resolution. Then we have for a then 30 centimeter satellite product. Then 30 centimeter imagery. We have planets also small. Like they are also having a cube satellites. So they are also producing high resolution imageries. Then recent startups, if we need to speak about, is ISI. ISI is one of the startup which is operating, I think in UK. Hello. In Europe. So it's a SAR satellite. It's a startup. It operates a constellation of small SAR satellites. So they operate radar satellite to get high resolution data. Then Apart from that, so in India also there is one more company called Pixel. So it's also a startup which has been recently started, maybe a couple of years, maybe 1 or 2 years. So they are also creating a small satellites. Then we directly jump to drones. So drone, when we speak about drone, so drone is also a recent technology bloom, as I said earlier. So it has been evolved from maybe 2010. Um, So drone has a wide range of applications, not only in surveying or mapping. So it has a wide range of applications in surveillance, defense, in all industries. So particularly the application which we are going to speak is about surveying, mapping, or any kind of analytics which can be derived from the drone data. So drone data, when we speak, so drone is a say, so what can I say? So it's an equipment or something which holds a sensor which flies at a certain level of height, which captures imagery. So these imagery will be stitched together to get various data layers. So those data layers is what which is displayed here. So one such kind of data layer. So imagery and GPS data is a data which we are getting after drone. So once the drone is flown, once after collecting the data, the after it landing, we will be getting two types of data. So one is imagery data, another one is GPS data. So this GPS data gives us positional information about where my drone is flown. Then after that, we will be post-processing these imageries and GPS data to get geo-referenced 3D point cloud data. So this 3D point cloud data, so when we speak about point cloud, so point cloud is a 3D data in a LAS format. Uh, so point cloud is a 3D format in a LAS format. Not only in LAS format, we have LAS. We have various kinds of format. Uh, so not only drone gives us the point cloud, so we can even generate point cloud using satellite imagery. So we can get satellite imagery. We have software to process this satellite imagery. We will extract points from this satellite imagery. Then we will densify these points to get the satellite imagery. So we can provide point cloud. So we have laser scanners to provide point cloud, so which provides a very good level accuracy point cloud. So from this 3D point cloud, so once this 3D point cloud is generated, so I have got my 3D I have got my 3D view of my terrain. So it is densified, which minimum it can have a 10 points per meter square, maximum it can have thousands and thousands. Then mesh is also it's a triangulated model. So how I am seeing my through eyes, so that replication of my real world model into a triangulated textured model, I can say it as a mesh. Then so once my 3D point cloud is generated, then I will be creating my elevation models over it. So I have a vector data, then I will convert into a raster data using interpolation techniques which I have in my software or my algorithms. So once I got my algorithms, once I got my dim, so or point cloud, I have got my 3D data. Using this elevation thing, I will correct my adjusted images, like what we discussed about previously, relief displacement. So these things will be corrected on my orthomosaic. So I will get a orthomosaic with a good accuracy and in a centimeter level. So whenever we're speaking about drone, so we get a very high resolution imagery. 1 centimeter, we can get 2 centimeter, depending upon my flying height, my resolution of the imagery, and accuracy of the data varies. So apart from other extracted analytics, when we speak about extracted analysis, so if I am operating on a field, so I have a multispectral sensor, so which we can see in the next slide. For drone also we have so generally for mapping purpose we operate the drone with RGB cameras, so digital cameras, but for mapping, so for when we move on to agriculture or some other product, we have various sensors too for drones. So one such sensors are Microsen, Seniterra, then DJ is also having lidar drones, multispectral camera drones. So this sensors operates red, blue, green, and NIR, then red edge. So different. So still we have few more bands too. So I couldn't remember that now. That Velodyne. So Velodyne is a lidar sensor which can be flown using drone. So it captures lidar. So we can capture a aerial lidar. So we can do a area radar survey using my drone, using some radar sensors. So there are many available. Regal is there, other than DJ is also having. So these are like very limited sensors which I have presented here. So apart from this, so once I got so if I got so far consider I have an RGB data, so I can process my RGB data. So I will get my orthomosaics. So where over that I can do my topographic analysis. I can get I have got my DEM products. So over that I can do my vegetation analysis. So I can classify my vegetation. I can create a canopy height model from my vegetation, sorry, from my DEM layers. So using these DEM layers, I can do various levels of. So I can create a 3D models too. Like apart from this mesh model, I can create 3D models using the extracted features and my DEM products. So I can calculate volumes for a dump. I can calculate volumes for a construction site. I can monitor my construction. So application extends when we speak. Then other types of sensors which we are using terrestrial scanners. So these scanners are lidar. So we can scan our buildings, railway station, anything what we want. Then mobile radar, so which is mostly used by industry to map roads. Then ground penetrating radar, which is also used one of the sensor which is used to map subsurface features. So maybe metal exploration, maybe cable exploration, or my pipeline exploration. So they can be used. So before moving into computer vision, so we can have a small data. I can show you a few couple of data sets which I have got. So how to infer these data sets we can see. So I'm just switching this tab. So this is one such data set which it's also readily available in internet. So it's a drone data set. So I'll show you. So this is a software called QGIS. It's an open source software which has a lot of collaborators worldwide, and it's actively improving. It's a maybe I can say open source alternative for ArcMap, which is a paid proprietary version. So this is my imagery. So you can see the resolution which is captured using drone. So whenever I import imagery, so I can check my resolutions too. So I have a property. So all these images will have a metadata. So I can explore that metadata. So I'm just exploring very little, but we have certain programmatical tools like maybe I can use my C++ or Python or R. So we have predefined libraries. So all the softwares were also built over the. So I have a predefined libraries where I can plot my histogram, where I can check what is my resolution projection. Everything can be checked through that also. So my pixel size is 5 centimeter. So my pixel size of my drone data is 5 centimeter. So here it is mentioned to band 4. So it doesn't mean red, green, blue, and entire. So it has only red, green, blue. It's taken from our digital camera. But one more band is called alpha band. So that is for transparency of my orthomosaic. So the format which is GeoTIFF, which is used. Then data type is 8-bit integer. So 8 into 3 bands, it's equal to 24. Then my height of my imagery, width of my imagery. So origin of my imagery. So each band, summary of my each band, what is my comparison of my format, we can infer. So what is my extent? So my right top extent, bottom extent, everything. What is my units of my imagery? Either it is in meter or centimeter. So it can be. So now one more thing. So this is a DEM product which we were speaking about. So similarly, this is also captured using drone. So this data is downloaded from Pix4D. So they have a website, you can log in, you can get a trial account, and you can readily download all this data. So they have different kinds of data. So this is my DEM product. So I can classify in different colors. So this is my DEM product. So here this is my classification. It has classified my elevation ranges. So my lower elevation is my higher elevation is 847.465. My lower elevation is 794.577. So we can split even into equal classes. So whether I want to display my elevation, whether I want to symbolize my tester data into every 10 meter, so I can classify that. So tools are available. So we even the same thing can be done using programmatically. So but currently I'm not displaying. So my minimum height is 794 and maximum height is 847. So between these heights, it will classify into different layers. So that's what we are seeing. Then, so this is one more data set which is downloaded from Airbus. So this imagery is a high resolution satellite imagery. So it consists of 4 bands, RGB and NIR. Then similarly we can see. So this is a 16-bit unsigned integer format. So same, I don't have another GOT format. So apart from that, so my pixel size. So this is a multispectral imagery. So my pixel size is 1 meter. Okay. So I have a pan resolution 2, pan imagery 2. So I can import now that. Yeah. Okay. I loaded different direction. So this is my pan of that same, but I have loaded different time, but it's of the same area. So you can see the details, level of details. So my pan resolution is of about 40 centimeters and my multispectral is of about 1 meter. So even I can create composite color, like we called as FCC, false color composite. Even we can create false color composite imagery too. False color composite. So with whatever I'm seeing through RGB, I can see additionally when I create a false color composite. So since it takes, my system performance is low, I'm not generating now. So I can change the resolution of this imagery using a tool called Pan Sharpen. So Pan Sharpen is available in QGIS. Proprietary ArcMap is also available. Then we have software Eritas and other remote sensing tools softwares we can use that software also for Pan Sharpening. So here I have a good spatial resolution, which is my pan sharpened imagery, and good spectral resolution, which is my multispectral imagery. But I need actually both to perform analysis. I don't want one thing, so I don't both. So for in this case, I can combine my both of these layers and like using the so since this both have been taken on the same time period and same day by a same sensor. So here I can't justify that it's a data fusion technique, but I can say it's just a pan sharpening since it is from same sensor. So when I'm speaking about multi-sensor types, so there comes definitely so data fusion and applications of computer vision. So here I can import my red, blue, green, and other channels of my imagery, and I can use my pan channel to increase my spatial resolution of my multispectral imagery. So methods we have 3, not PCA, just like many more methods for that. So so when I right click run, so it will give a sharpened multispectral imagery with the resolution as the spatial resolution same as my, so here my the resolution is 40 centimeter. My multispectral will be also enhanced to 40 centimeter resolution. Okay. So these were the raster data sets, which is from satellite and from drone. So let's jump to another data set. It's radar. So this is one more data set. So it's a drone data set. So it's a drone point cloud, which is captured through drone, which is images have been captured through drone, processed through photogrammetric softwares to enhance the high resolution point cloud. So to extract the high resolution point cloud, so here also I can. So here also the information says how my total number of points. So I'm representing my area of maybe less than 1 acre with the points of 0.89 this much number of points. Then same, this color is this is only RGB point cloud. So maybe we can have a, so when we speak about it, when we speak about LiDAR, so we have so when we speak about difference between LiDAR point cloud and the RGB point cloud, so drone point cloud has been extracted from the images using techniques called SFM, SGM, multi-view studio techniques. So there are many other techniques to get the 3D points from the images. But when we speak about laser points, so these laser points will hit the image of hit our objects and it'll get back, then that is processed. So that is laser point cloud is directly from the laser scanner. So definitely properties varies. In laser point cloud, intensity will be there. In our point cloud, we won't be having intensity. In laser point cloud, we will be having number of returns, like return 1, return 2, multiple returns, dual returns. We have different kinds of returns. I couldn't display radar point cloud, sorry. I don't have access to that, but I can display the drone point cloud. But in drone point cloud, we won't be having this information. But drone point cloud will be having significant RGB information, so which can be also used for classification of this point cloud for further purposes. So next we will directly jump to computer vision techniques. So let's speak about computer vision. So how does computer vision helps remote sensing, or how does remote sensing helps computer vision and achieving certain applications? So what is remote? So we know what is remote sensing, we know what is photogrammetry, or maybe we know what is GIS. So how does computer vision helps in this industry to extract information, or what does it do actually? So when we speak about photogrammetry and computer vision, like you can call them as brothers. So like they are closely correlated. So the techniques which we are using in computer vision, photogrammetry are nearly same. Maybe algorithm differs. Like we have an interchangeable algorithm. Some algorithm we can use in whatever we are using in photogrammetry, it can be used in computer vision. So we have interoperability. So computer vision. So the ultimate aim of the computer vision is to extract information from so I can easily extract information. So we have a technique where we can extract information from a structured data kind of Excel sheet or a database kind of thing. But when I have an image, so I can extract. I can sit manually and extract. But does it solve my purpose in an easier manner? No. So ultimately, I need a vision. So where my computer can extract information automatically from images, which makes my decision better without my interference or with less interference of mine. So that's where computer vision has been implemented. So when we speak about computer vision, so the advance of technology. So computer vision is also, it's not a new technology. It has a bloom recently. So the same computer vision we have studied in colleges in remote sensing, digital image processing too. So it has a recent bloom. It's not a technology which is formed created now. So it has a decades and centuries histories. So how does computer vision helps in photogrammetry or remote sensing? So that's what our major concern is. So computer vision helps in self-driving car. So I can collect imagery, I can label the imagery. So I have an imagery which consists of so maybe here I can awesome. So here the first imagery, so it is stating that so it's an industry. So I have different tools. So where my computer or cameras is detecting what is the tool, whether it's a person, whether it's maintaining the standards, everything can be detected. So one such very easy example which is in our day-to-day life is Google Photos. So if we can browse, if we can navigate to your Google Photos, so it actually classifies the images. So it classifies who is me, it classifies who is my friend. If I have a multiple images, when I sync with my Google Photos, it classifies each and every person in my image. It has a separate database maintaining, it has a separate Even like I can give, he's my friend, he's my mother, he's my father, like I can name them. So it will be a database which will be not used in my phone, it will be used overall, but it classifies the image with a very good precision. So so application of computer vision in photogrammetry. So as we saw the image, I took from Google only, but I don't know from which side I took. So this is it's very traditional photogrammetry where they have used uh, the stereo plotters to plot, to create, to stitch the two imagery, only two imagery from my aeroplane, to stitch it and to create a demo product. So it was they had struggled a lot to study this photogrammetry, to work with this photogrammetry. So it's like a lathe, but it's not a lathe, it's a stereo plotters. So where they used scanned images, they will scan the image first, they will print, once we got from sensor, they will scan, then they will plot. So a lot of, it's an analytical method, so it's a big subject. But this has been reduced. So even 10 years, not, yeah, even 10 years before, we used to have a photogrammetric softwares. Either you should wear a stereo glasses. So hardware also increases there. So you should use a 3D stereo glasses, 3D mouse to identify the terrain to stitch type points. Similarly, you will have a strip of photo. You should manually create type points. You should manually create key points. You should manually place the GCPs. So all these struggles have been completely removed because of only computer vision, we can say. So this computer vision, like, it has helped. So from automatic extraction of key points, type points, from densification, automatic GCPs. So how can I register, or how can I merge the imagery both without human interference? How can I classify the point cloud in a very faster manner and without less human interference? Everything is done through computer vision. So it's first key points and type points. So key points. So in photogrammetry, generally we fly as terrain. So we capture photos. So we capture photos and we measure from that photos. That is called as photogrammetry. So whatever photos we are capturing, so it is mostly in image coordinate system. So this image coordinate system we are having a certain processes, certain algorithms, mathematical models. So we will derive from this image processing, sorry, image coordinate system. We will bring it to a map coordinate system. So map coordinate system. So it's a state predefined coordinate system which we previously spoken. So map coordinate system, projection system, everything will be corrected, and we will be bringing our real world terrain images into our map coordinate system so that I can analyze my data spatially. So for I have overlap of my image, which is collected maybe 30-40 overlap. I have it in both sideways and front ways too. So in this case, I will extract. So my key points are the common points between my two imagery, overlapping imagery. Maybe I have a right imagery and left imagery of a building. So of a consider 2-3 buildings. So I will be extracting whatever the matching feature from my first image and from my second image. So both should have a common feature to merge that imagery so that I can rectify and I can match exactly. So this may always, whatever imagery which is captured through photogrammetry will always have overlap. So this will be captured and the key points are the common points between the two imagery. So type points are the points which is projected from the 2D space to the 3D space. So key points is a common points. So I have taken an imagery of my tree with the overlap of 30%. So I have a certain branches, I have a certain cuts in my wood, or if I take my building, I have a certain common features between this overlap. So this will be identified automatically by by computer vision, which was previously identified with the manual, and it was very painful for eyes also. Then from after, once my type points is extracted, the next step is my generation of my point cloud, which is my first elevation data. So for generating point cloud, so it uses the same technique. So how as we discussed previously, how my eyes is reconstructing my terrain, how like how exactly, whether it is height or tall, how 3D, the same thing. So multi-vision stereo algorithms we have. Then SFM, structure from motion, we have. Then SGM, semi-global matching algorithms we have. So these were the algorithms. So maybe a jargons, but these were the algorithms which are behind this process to extract high resolution, high quality, high accurate product from our imagery data. So automatic identification of GCPs. So there are ground control points which is used in all aerial surveys and even terrestrial surveys too. So which is used in all aerial surveys predominantly. So these ground control points is to get my accuracy, absolute accuracy of my project. So so finding my ground control point, marking manually, it's also a kind of risky. It's not a risky thing; it's a tricky thing. So so how can we solve this? So I can create an algorithm which directly map my ground control point. So I have a predefined shape of my ground control point. Using that, I will train my machine or I will train my computer with the standard imagery at a different angle. So I with the different rotations, how my ground control point may be skewed in my imagery, maybe enlarged in my imagery, maybe having some coverage. So I will try to identify automatically the ground control points. Then image co-registration. So when we have a multiple images, we need to type each other without any distortions. So here we need to apply geometry correction. So in applying geometry corrections, so this computer vision is very much helpful in finding the matched features matching and applying the corrections in a very simple manner. Then point cloud classification. Similarly, classifying the point cloud is also a big thing. So where maybe I can, when I'm classifying, I can lose some data. I can intentionally, like not intentionally, maybe I can delete the data mistakenly. Maybe I can add some extra noise. So these things can be made more comfortable with this computation technology. So let's move to the next slide. So as we see the extracting of points and key points. So there are two defined algorithms called shift and surf. Shift is, sorry, I forgot the thing. But the shift and surf, both algorithms are used to find the matching features between the overlapping imagery, or if you give two imagery, whether to find the matching points between the two imagery. Then the ransack is also one more algorithm, statistics, like it's widely used in statistics. So this algorithm is, so I have generated millions and trillions of points, my type points, but I don't know which is outlier, which is good, which is bad. So I need to have I will be having definitely outliers. So to remove this outliers from my 3D points, ransack is widely used. So again, SFM and SGM is widely used in densifying my point cloud. So right towards the right of the slide, so the imagery which is which was taken from Supervisely. Supervisely is a website which we can use to train, which you can use to label our images, label our videos, or label our 3D point clouds. So then next, so this is whatever we have spoken, it's photogrammetry. So next, move for data rectification. So I have got an imagery from my satellite vendor. So I have downloaded some imagery from my USGS or BOAN somewhere. So I need to process it. So I have downloaded some level 2 data, the level 1 data with cloud. So again, so this can be easily detected through certain frequency of our bandwidth too. So, but it won't be available in all bandwidth. So for this application, so I can train a model which identifies the cloud, only cloud. So where I can segment my imagery. So I can segment my cloud, then I can take that mask, apply to my original imagery, then I can remove my cloud. Similarly, shadows. Shadows are like, it's a very which it is inevitable in the survey, in the aerial survey. So shadows will be definitely there. So when you want to perform a survey continuously, shadows will be definitely there. So how can I correct the surveys? So I can implement a model algorithms to detect my shadows. So so maybe there is I think there's an algorithm which is trained using SVM classifier. So it detects shadows from imagery, but it uses RGB and NIR. This can be implemented in RGB too. So then another one, so the whatever things which we had discussed previously is pan sharpening. So for pan sharpening, we need a pan data which is of high spatial resolution and other multispectral data which is of good spectral resolution. So but so this is also a super resolution. Super resolution is also a one more hot trend, hot topic. So using, we have a blood imagery and haze in our imagery. So towards, so I can make my imagery like this. So this super resolution uses a neural network called GAN, General Adversarial Network. So which trains and which improves my accuracy of my blurred images. So it's widely used in image processing. It applies for GIS also. So apart from that, we have a histogram enhancement. So when I want to enhance my brightness of my product, or I want to make my mosaics in a uniform color, so I can take from one more. I can match the histograms, or I can transfer the colors. So we have a various color space. We can transfer between that. So we have various algorithms. This too. Then here comes, so this is whatever we discussed was for pre-processing or enhancement my of data, processing of the data. So now let's come to the decision part. So I have got my satellite imagery, I have got my drone data. So what actually it do? So that's where the pattern recognition and classification happens. So what decision? So maybe I have, so maybe we are a JS person, we can handle. But when I am transferring this information, same when I'm transferring this data to some other, how he will interpret, how easily he can understand, how easily he can take the values and he can make a better decisions. So that can be done only after, it's not directly through the images, it's the features which we are extracting from the images. So maybe I can extract the buildings, or can extract the roads. So consider I have a data set of whole India. I need to extract, I need to find where my mud road is there, where my constructed road, paved road, unpaved road. But it's very much hectic, and it's a very time consuming process and very manual labor task to proceed the task. So we need to mark each, we need to find either it's a low resolution imagery or it's a high resolution imagery, it's a different case, but we need to find each and every imagery, every rows, every columns of the imagery to find the road. But we can develop, instead we can develop a model which predicts. So it's a prediction, but we can't, there will be certain level of outliers or noises, but it provides us, it makes us our job too much easier and too much comfortable. So I can find my roads which is paved or which is unpaved. So the once I found that, again I can make, so I will give to my decision maker, he will find whether is it a road which is going to village or state, districts. So everything can be enhanced and the decision making can be made very much easier and very much sophisticated using this level of spatial data, either it's a vector data, raster data. So like there are various platforms too, where they can only view and directly we can process the imageries directly into the informations. So in this information part, the computer vision serves in classification of image. So we used to classify the images, multispectral images, hyperspectral images, using training samples. So we will take a training sample for a river, we will take a training sample for a building, we will take a training sample for a crop. So we'll training sample, then we'll train the image. We have a classifier. Then we will use the classifier on the test data or on the upcoming data. So this is also sophisticated. So it's also made easier. So all this workflow has been made automated. So once you develop a neural network, once you develop a network, so this network will train your imagery. So once you have a predefined standard, so when you want to add, only add that certain number of layers to the network. So segmentation. Segmentation is also plays an important role in information extraction. So segmentation, classification, So it's also both nearly same, but not exactly. So segmentation, same case where I want to split my building area separately, road separately, same case. Then object detection. So I have a satellite imagery. So I have consider I have a company which monitors with surveillance using either a CCTV sensor or using my satellite image, high resolution satellite imagery, or using some certain drones in a certain level. So in that case, I can map, I can track, I can detect the objects. So whether there is a illegal entry of the cars, whether I can detect my number plates, whether the car number plate is from other boundary or from my boundary, or whether it's this, if I'm monitoring for a marine case, whether I can monitor whether this ship is from our country or other country, whether they are better, this kinds of thing can be done. So change detection is also one of the greatest application of remote sensing. So in change detection, we have multiple temporal data sets. So as we spoken earlier, so I have a data set from 1990, sorry, 2000. I have a data set on 2010. So I want to map how much urban environment has changed, how much urban sprawl has been happened. So these things, even urban heat islands can be mapped using change detection. Or if you consider some kind of construction, what is my stock rate of this month and how does it change next month? It can be also done through both satellite and the drone data. Then, so same various platforms available for computer visions is Pictera also one of the good platform. They have both training and detector mode. Then Up42 is one of the cloud computing platform which we can become a data partner. We can give our data, and they have own data sets which we can download. We will get a data API. We can process algorithms, predefined algorithms. Then Google Earth Engine is a like very open source engine, so it was also created by Google. So we have a wide range of applications with Google Earth Engines too. Then Evo Factory, it's also a recently developed platform. Sorry, Sentinel Hub, Land Hub, sorry, LandViewer, Disaster Labs, Discrete Labs are the some more platforms. All the platforms look good. Sorry. So I'm just narrowing down to application of computer vision and remote sensing or photogrammetry to a one specific sector, mining, which we work in our organization. So main things which can be done is exploration. So pre mining. So I can identify minerals using either Landsat data or some hyperspectral data, or even using GPRs. Then after that, I can calculate watershed mapping. So watershed mapping is also can be done using dams. Then topographic mapping. So I can map my whole area. So I can fix the boundaries. I can start my surveys. Then after once the planning phase is done, I can move to the surveying. So exploitation. So where I'm exploring the minerals. So where I can survey my mines to for stock calculations. So say then dump calculations, how much material I have extracted, how much environmental things, how much environmental monitoring which I'm doing in the mine. So if rains, how my mine will flood, everything can be done. So one more thing is object based image analysis. So this is also a famous technique. So it's also improvised. So in general pixel wise classification, we consider pixels. So the classification will be mostly pixel to pixel classification. In object based image analysis, so we use different layers of data. So I can use my DEM to classify high vegetation and low vegetation. I can use my NDVI maps to classify parlands and cultivated lands. I can use my NDVI maps and multi-pattern imagery same to classify good crop or bad crop. So different layers. So how I can classify using my texture. I can classify using my hue, tone, everything. So first it will segment my images into few small features. then each nearby object is classified accordingly. So far, the most widely used image processing software is paid proprietary software by Trimble Recognition. So then second, then we have intermap software. So this will be mostly rule-based classifications. So even while making computer vision decisions, even remote sensing data helps more. So as we discuss is this self-driving car. Then SLAM. SLAM is also one of the technique which is used in self-driving cars called localization, simultaneous localization and mapping. So which uses lidar to locate in our object space and find our distance, position, everything. So so just to start with, so we need to start with if we have already photogrammetry and remote sensing, we can directly jump into remote computer vision. There's no doubt in that. But if we need to start with particularly with computer vision, we have with Python. We have a open source open page called PyImage Search where we have a tons of tutorial in Python. We have even open. We have a university, Geo University called. There also they teach OpenCV and this thing. Then we have open lots of resources. I have narrowed down only again to two. In photogrammetry, we have a standard books which will give a very good intro to the things. Apart from this, we have a small courses on NTPL also. So the most commonly used tools. So if we speak QGIS is a open source which we had seen now. And NorthMap is a proprietary which have tons of functionalities. So it makes map easy. So it's have tons and tons of functionality from the future extraction. So ArcMap Pro, it's have even deep learning training things. So which also makes not only mapping easier, but also it makes deep learning also easier for GIS. So Eridos is also a full suite for image processing, satellite image processing, satellite image processing, and a photogrammetry suite. So it is also having it's also having a wide range of tools. It's also having a deep learning functionality. See, NV is similar to Eridos. So Eridos is an excellent, NV is a different company. Then NV is also having tools and it's having a integrated development IDL. So where we can perform our own scripts. There also we can process SAR, multipetal, have a range of imagery. As discussed, OBA is eCognition is a object-based software. Then we have tons of libraries which handle raster and vector data. In Python 2, we have a tons of library in R2. Even so, the previous slide which we had discussed about NASA Power. So the NASA Power, for NASA Power, we have a library in R data library in in CRAN we have a library for NASA Power. So that's it. So let's go for a platform two. So I will showcase you the 2 to 3 platforms. So then we can wind up. So if we have doubts, we can discuss it. So
Thank you, sir. Participants, if you have any queries, you can ask now, or otherwise you can type in the chat box also. Dear participants, if you have any queries, you can write now. Dear participants, if you have any doubts or queries, you can raise now.
hello, sir.
Yeah.
So yeah, let us go in small two. So I can show 2 to 3 platforms. Then we can discuss more. So I'm just sharing a couple of platforms like which are very famous in the recent days. So let me share my screen in a couple of minutes. Yeah. So Can you able to see my screen? So a couple of platforms which I can show you is Sentinel Hub, Pictera, Evo Factory, then Up42. Then I can show you Google App Engine too. So Sentinel Hub. So these platforms were we called as it's also a recent bloom. So so we can, instead of downloading imagery from a satellite, when you are instead of purchasing a imagery from other vendors, again you need a software to operate in your system. Again you need to do certain type of corrections. Again we need to for making converting that to into information, you may require a different kind of software. So to simplify these processes, so there have been various platforms developed in our industries. So one such is Sentinel Evo, Sentinel browser. So sorry, I can search Sentinel imagery. So I'm not searching. So I'm just searching randomly. So I've got various kinds of imagery. Sorry, various dates. So I can visualize my imagery here. So here I have various so I have various bands of imagery. So I have all the bands. So this is my true color imagery, which is RGB. So when you speak about true color, which is always RGB in our name, then true color enhanced. So this true color enhanced, it will be brightness case, and also in flow corrections and other type of corrections will be happened in this. So I think when it is low, it couldn't load properly. So yeah. So this is a terrestrial chlorophyll index which is created in Sentinel platform. So I didn't log in now. So you can log in. So we have premium features too. So I have chlorophyll index for my area. So then I can load some of my false color composite imagery, which is for my area. Sorry. Even I can, so I can add my layers to compare. So I can compare both the imagery. So how can I compare? So I can have tools to compare how my images are there. So I can compare this. So there is a lot of functionalities. It's not limited to only displaying. So I have processing functionalities too. So which I need a paid version. So I'm not going in. So other platform is a Pictera. Sorry. So Pictera is also a paid platform, which uses artificial intelligence, computer vision techniques, and machine learning techniques to extract information from drone data sets, satellite imagery, and everything. So there is a two modes, which is, so I'm in a trial version, so I have 500 MP credits, so I can buy depending upon my plan. So I have two modes. One is training mode and another one is detection mode. So I can, in training mode, so I can choose my detectors what I want. So it has various sectors too. So I can use my own training things. So I can draw. So I can specify my training dataset. I can specify my testing dataset here. What is the accuracy? So these things, everything I can specify. So I can train my samples. I can here, once I load it in my training mode, I can train. I can just label my samples. Then it will train. Then it will create a detector, so which is detection mode. So if I want to train apart from this predefined training model, if I want to train my things, I can use this training model. I can create my own training model too, and I can detect that using my detector. So once the detector is created, I can use it for various applications, and I can generate reports and other stuffs. So so this is the output, actually results. So let it load. We will go for another thing. So Evo is it's also a recent platform which has been created. I think came up globally. So here also same, we have predefined models where we can import both our satellite imagery and drone imagery. So we have a tree count, we have a building foot drop extraction, water extraction. So these are predefined. So you can make a custom model using scripts, own scripts. So you can share the community models too here. So similarly, like you can schedule the processing workflows or whole processing in your browser, irrespective of your system configuration. So another platform is Up42. It's a platform uh, which here also we can import drone data, satellite data. So here you can create your blogs. So I'm not creating, so it will take some time due to my internet issue. So I'm just directly moving on. So marketplace. So here I have imagery. So same like Google Earth Engine is an open source engine. So it's a community version. So you have a various types of image data sets where you can do certain amounts of algorithms also there. So these were my algorithms. So I can tile my raster, whether so as we discussed, super resolution or for SAR processing or enhanced cloud. So you have same. I think they also having scripting capabilities. So then so I can export as zip files and reports too. Then let's do Google Earth Engine. So Google Earth Engine is also everybody might have heard of. So it's a it's an open source platform where we have a tons of data which is available on internet, irrespective of your computer system capabilities. So we can operate with this Google Earth Engine. So we can go to. So I'm just opening. Sorry. So give me a minute. Input. So Google Earth Engine is also having various data sets. So in land, surface, air, everything climate is there. So this is a script platform. You can go and you can explore more things than me. So we have a explorer. So it's a data explorer. And we have a documentations on the predefined functions. So this is a platform where we can. So there is a predefined function. It's available. So I can directly run. If I want to create my own, I can create scripts, I can import data. So there is no restriction for that. But the only thing is I should not do for commercial purposes. So that's it. So once again, it's again the same kind notes. So whatever slides which I down, so whatever slides I presented, whatever codes I showed, whatever data I showed, whatever platforms I showed, nothing is proprietary, nothing is a part of my research, everything is a part of my just Google search. So thank you all. So you can ask your doubts.
Dear participants, if you have any doubts, you can raise now. Participants,
If you have
any doubt? No. Okay. Sir, shall we wind up?
yeah, sir, yeah. Thank you. Yeah, sir. Thank you for the opportunity. Thank you, Karan sir. Thank you, Fixed College and ACT for giving the opportunity. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, sir, for giving a valuable session on remote sensing data products and computer application. I think this is a fruitful session for us. I thank all the participants for your kind cooperation with us. Thank you. Thank you once again. Feedback link is available in chat box. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, sir. Yeah.
Participants, the feedback link is now available in the chat box. You can fill now.